race, Erling Haaland's goal, enough to beat Burnley, wasn't it? And after the game, he called on his teammates to just win, as simple as that. The result, one thing, but how they did it, is that a worry, do you think, in terms of the performance? You know, they were brilliant against Arsenal, but they did look a little bit tired against Burnley.
Yeah, I think they were tired. I don't think it's a worry, because I always still thought they were in second gear and could have came to third and fourth and missed some big chances. So I don't think it's a worry. I think mentally and physically, the game on the weekend took a lot out of them. They knew they had to win that. If City didn't win that, Arsenal would have probably gone on and won the Premier League. Now they've opened up that Premier League. From where City were to where they are now, where Arsenal were that much ahead, that's why everyone's probably putting Man City as favourites, because they just look unstoppable at the moment. Even though last night they only win 1-0, it's still about 3 points. I know it could go to goal difference, but they've got other games. They're top of the league. I think they went top of the league after they beat Wolves at the start of the season. And this is only the second time they've been...
Arsenal have been top for 200 days.
There you go. So psychologically, that is good for Man City. How are Arsenal going to feel chasing? But then you've got to realise, City have now got FA Cup semi-final. Arsenal played 2 games, Newcastle and Fulham, could go 6 points clear and put the pressure back on Man City. So that's why it's wide open, Vicky.
But would they look back on, a game like Burnley, and I'm not being disrespectful, and I know they were fighting for survival, but would they look back on a game like that and think, actually, we've got a bit of a regret there, because we could have at least did something with that goal difference, which is so tight?
No, yeah, and I totally understand what you're saying, but you got to credit Burnley. I thought they defended for their lives. They knew they were going to more than likely get relegated. And you thought when Haaland scored the first goal, they were going to go on and score 4 or 5. But, yeah, it was wasteful finishing from Man City, which we haven't said a lot this season. But it's all about the 3 points. I think you look at the race for the title and the games that they've...
That's the last result.
That's the last result, sorry. Yeah, that is the last results. So who's the informed team there, Vicky? And you look at Arsenal. Arsenal struggled. And there's games in there, the Carabao Cup final, a few Champions League games as well. So, yeah, for me personally, it's a hard one to call. And everyone still thinks Arsenal could do it. And I think Arsenal still can do it. But I know we like to push people for an answer here, but my prediction would probably be Man City. But I still think Arsenal can go on and win it, because I think both teams will drop points from now to the end of the season.
But who has the edge at the moment? The fact that they've taken it off them after you said 200 days at the top, does that give them kind of the psychological edge? And that give them... They've got muscle memory at this as well.
Yeah.
Pep Guardiola's got the muscle memory. They haven't. They've got none of that.
Yeah,
so have they got that edge in terms of the mind games?
They've got that edge because they've got the winners and they've got the best manager around who's been there, seen it, done it. A lot of Arsenal players haven't been across that line, even Mikel Arteta hasn't. But he was frustrated last night. As I said, I was at the game, I watched a lot of Pep on the touchline. He was kicking every ball. And it's big now for Mikel Arteta to see how he...
Quite dramatic from him.
Yeah, that is dramatic. But he's like that on the touchline, isn't he? Like, he's very dramatic. He kicks every ball. He's passionate. He wants his team to do well. And he's had an outstanding season. He's going toe-to-toe with one of the best. The only thing is they'll be really disappointed for the lead that they could have had and they get thrown away and Man City do it. But that's testament to City where they are and with the manager they've got, Pep Guardiola, and the group of players they've got. But what could stand Arsenal in good stead is the 2 games they got coming up. If they beat Newcastle and Fulham, that is 6 points. City then go to Everton, who are trying to get into Europe, which is a hard place to go. So there you go. You'd rather have the points on board, Vicky, than chasing.
I'll talk to you just about the run-in predictions. We'll look through the games in a minute. But just in terms of that man there, Arteta, he's always been known as the apprentice and the master in this kind of relationship between...
But he'll always be that.
Yeah, me too. Let's take a look then at your run-in predictions then. Where do you think the wins are coming, the defeats are coming, if any?
Well, Newcastle or Fulham, I feel Arsenal, they will draw one of them games. I do actually think, I do. And I think the Everton and Bournemouth game are the 2 games where I look at for Man City and think they are hard games. As you said earlier, Vicky, Iriola, his last game at home, and it is a tough game. And it's a hard place to go, Bournemouth. They make it a proper football match. You saw what they've done to Arsenal at the Emirates. Everton, David Moyes, the job he's done there, it's a hard place to go. So they're going to be tough. Even Brentford at home is tough because they're going to be fighting for Europe. But I just feel Man City, where they are at the moment, I don't think they fear anyone. And I think they have that mentality. And the manager, Pep Guardiola, makes that group of players have that mentality. And what they've got is players who don't think about situations. Yeah, they have Rodri, Bernardo Silva that have won it, and Haaland. But what they've got in Turkey is a maverick. He doesn't care. I watched him last night. He plays it. When you're trying to take someone on, Vicky, you're meant to look at the ball. He's looking at the defender's eyes and laughing at them because he knows what he's going to do to them. He's a joy to watch. And when you've got players like that, that could just give them the X factor and the extra edge. And you know one thing I will say with Arsenal where they got very lucky is Gabriel. He didn't get sent off on the weekend against Haaland, where I think he did put the head into Haaland, and that helps them massively because he's probably been the best centre-half in the Premier League this season. So for them to, if he had been banned, it would have been a huge blow to Arsenal. Sounds
like you're saying 50-50, so in a word, who wins though?
No, I said it earlier. In a word, I think Man City win. But it's Arsenal fans. It's not over. Sorry, that was more than one word.
It always is with you.
It always is.
OK, let's turn our attentions to this then, because Manchester City top for the first time in 8 months, but with both sides level on points.
Right, let's focus on the title race now. Manchester City went top of the Premier League last night for the first time in over 200 days. They beat Burnley 1-0 and lead the way with 5 games remaining, but only on goals scored. Let's speak now to former City defender Nedum Anua. Nedum, thanks for joining us on Sky Sports News. 209 days we worked out Arsenal were top of the league. City weren't top since the opening week in August. After last night, how significant a moment is that, psychologically maybe as well?
I do think it is a big moment psychologically from a City perspective, but the fact is the ball's now in Arsenal's court. I think Arsenal play this weekend in the league, whereas City are playing in the FA Cup, so Arsenal have a chance again to go back to the top. And I believe they actually have 2 games in the league before City have their next fixture. So before you know it, this feeling of City being top, well, City could then be in a position where they're 6 points behind Arsenal if Arsenal do what they have to do. So I think it is significant from a City perspective to really be in a title race, because I think for most people, a month or so ago, it almost felt inevitable that Arsenal would be taking the title. I think City dropped points away at West Ham, where Mavropanos scores with West Ham's only shot of the game, and it felt like the title was probably done at that stage. But for the way that football is, you know, these things can start to happen, and the belief is there. Now we have a genuine race on, whereas, you know, not too long ago, I thought it was just going to be a procession for Arsenal.
Nedum, just stay there, because I want you to listen in on what Erling Haaland said yesterday, because he seemed a bit bemused when he was asked about the lack of goals against Burnley. It was obviously just a 1-0 victory. Let's hear from him now and we'll come back to you. This is Erling Haaland from last night.
Yeah, we had a lot of chances, but I'm happy we win, and that's the most important thing. Anything else, don't think, just try to win. It's all about winning, no matter how. We try to play our football and just try to win. That's what you have to have in your mindset, and now focus on Saturday.
And it also shows, I think, a team against Burnley when probably many were expecting more goals to be scored here tonight, how difficult a title challenge it is for you.
Don't think about other goals, think about winning, as I said now 3 times.
And you keep that mood going as well in the dressing room, because I imagine it will be a bouncy dressing room despite the 1-0 scoreline here.
1-0 is amazing, I'm super happy. I don't know why you keep on asking me that. I'm super happy, we win and we get 3 points. And as they sing, we are top of the league, so be happy.
Right, so Nedum, he doesn't understand why Juliet Farrington kept asking him the question about the goals. But we're now 5 games from the end of the season. They are level on goal difference. Many people looked at this game last night as maybe a way that City could stretch that goal difference, give them a little bit of comfort maybe. The 28 shots they had yesterday, does it feel now on reflection that it maybe was a bit of a missed opportunity in spite of what Erling Haaland just said there?
I think at this stage of the season, this is where you see a real split between the playing side of the game and the watching side of the game. Because for people on our side of things, we're watching that game expecting City to win. So if we expect them to win, we expect them to try and run the tally up because we're thinking, oh, it could come down to goal difference and so on. But for those guys that were out there on the field, like Burnley overall made a good go of it. Obviously, they have been relegated now because of that result. But in the last minute of the game, Burnley are finishing with a corner kick with a chance to sort of tie and make it 1-1. Like, that type of stuff does matter. I think the primary objective for City, for Arsenal, before anything else, is securing a victory. If it happens to come with a ton of goals, then that's brilliant. And, you know, Burnley haven't been fantastic overall this season, which is obviously one of the reasons why they're down. But I think Haaland understands that before the game, it was a chance for them to go top, and top is where they went. If we get bogged down in the idea of goal difference and that's all they're going to be thinking about, then very quickly you can almost lose your focus. Because I think for many of us who remember through the league history, like, remember that time, for example, where Liverpool were 3-0 up away to Crystal Palace and they were rushing to get the ball out the net because they're thinking goal difference, goal difference, goal difference, and then the game finishes with a draw. Like, winning the games is ultimately going to be the most important thing that gives you the chance itself. If it comes down to goal difference and it's in your favour, then fantastic. But you can't just rest on your laurels and expect that, you know, a team's going to be winning convincingly every single week. Because if it was that easy, then both of these teams would be much further ahead points-wise than we see at this moment in time. And again, for context, the difficulty in terms of being in this position, both teams could win their remaining games and finish on 85 points. I think as far as the history of the Premier League goes, it shows that points are being dropped by those two top sides. And who knows whether or not it'll even be 85 to win it. So I think for Haaland, he made the point, emphasised the point. They're on the same amount of games as Arsenal now. They've got the same amount of points, but they are top. And if the season wants to finish now, then surely that's mission complete.
Yeah, just picking up on Haaland, he's now scored 5 goals in his last 4 games. There was a period at the start of this calendar year where there were a few doubts being thrown his way. He's basically just shown, never doubt me, hasn't he?
Yeah, you know, he has done that. He certainly has done that. And he'd know himself that it's been an imperfect season. I think it's been imperfect for the season for City and lots of other teams and players as well. But at the time where he wasn't scoring as many goals as, say, we'd expect him to, that's when the likes of Semenyo and others were really sort of finding their form as well. And I think if we go back to what feels like an everlasting season, at the start of the year, the talk was, will City score any goals if Haaland doesn't score himself? Well, there was that spell where he wasn't scoring, but they still found a way to be in this title charge now. But I think for me, if they are to win the Premier League title, I think his goal is going to be a big part of it going forward. I think his sort of sense of where to position himself and his finishing when he's at his best is as good as anyone, not just in the league, but probably in world football. So yes, he's had his dip, but even when he had his dip, he was still top scorer in the Premier League. And I think if he finds his confidence and he gets those chances created for him like we saw yesterday, then, you know, I'm backing him to continue scoring.
You mentioned winning the Premier League. They've already won the Carabao Cup. They're in the semi-finals this weekend, of course, against Southampton in the FA Cup. They've already done a domestic treble. They've already done the treble under Pep Guardiola. If they were to achieve a domestic treble again with this team, given everything that's happened this season, where do you think that would rank in Pep Guardiola's achievements here at Manchester City?
I think that's a fantastic question. This is provided that they do it, because we've seen in the last 2 attempts for City in terms of the FA Cup, losing the final to Crystal Palace and losing to Manchester United as well. So nothing is ever going to be guaranteed from that standpoint. But in reality, every trophy that they win is a very, very hard fought and, you know, well-earned one. I think the fact that they're in the semi-finals of the FA Cup again for maybe like the 7th or 8th year in a row is really impressive. But every title really matters. This one here against Arsenal, for them to be so far away, say just a couple of months ago, if they were to go on and win it, you know, they deserve a ton of credit, especially with the newer faces that are involved. And you can see from a City perspective, this season is almost like the beginning of a transition as such, because now you're looking at the likes of Semenyo, you know, looking at Kusanovs, Gahey's and others who are going to be potentially taking the mantle forward when you lose the likes of Bernardo Silva, John Stones, recent times, Gundogan's, De Bruyne's, Kyle Walker's and so on. So I think it would be really significant for almost putting the club in the right sort of position to, say, be successful going forward. But again, it's so difficult to win even one of these trophies. So if they were to get 3, I guarantee Guardiola will probably treasure it as much as anything else he's achieved in his career.
Yeah, just reflecting back on that big game on Sunday when they beat Arsenal at the Etihad, a certain Wayne Rooney was critical, shall we say, of the celebrations at the full-time whistle, saying that City were almost celebrating like they'd already won the title. What did you make of those comments and what did you make of the celebrations?
To be honest, I think most people would say that that game was one which had been marked off for so long in this season. And as the sort of gap was getting smaller and smaller, you felt how significant it was. And when the game was done, like the fans from a City perspective were rightly celebrating and fans from an Arsenal perspective were hugely disappointed. So I think in some ways it's probably unfair to try and police how people are going to celebrate any particular moment. And for, say, if he's being critical of